So this week at work, we had an ice cream social.
Yeah, what? You had an ice cream social?
Yes.
Why wasn't I invited?
I should have invited you. How rude of me.
I know, I don't work with you for one, but also, why not?
We'll have our own spoiler piece ice cream social.
Okay. I'm on board with that.
Which would make for a really bad podcast.
Just us chomping into the mic? Yeah.
Or our most popular podcast of all time. It's tough to say with the internet these days.
We don't talk about movies at all. We just talk about ice cream for a full hour.
We just eat ice cream.
Yeah. Okay, Evan, your ice cream social.
Well, it's just really the only thing is that we had an ice cream social, and it feels weird to call it that as an adult. Like, you think of when you're a kid, it's like a prize for, like, you sold enough candy bars to have an ice cream social.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the purpose behind it? Aside from, like, team building or whatever?
Yeah, just, like, morale boosting. They brought in Ben & Jerry's, and they had a person from Ben & Jerry's serving the ice cream and all the different toppings and stuff.
No. See, if you're going to fucking boost morale, you bring in the Haagen-Dazs. You don't bring in Ben & fucking Jerry's with its chalky vanilla flavor.
I mean, only if you get chalky vanilla.
Yeah. I mean, they have plenty of other good flavors.
And
What's
it's
the
not
old
creamy
joke?
enough.
A guy goes to the doctor. He touches his arm. He says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do that." Doctor says, "Don't do that."
Right.
So that's your
so
way
don't
of saying...
order the chalky chocolate.
Chalky vanilla?
Chalky vanilla. Chalky
Yeah.
chocolate. That's a good name.
Yeah.
Chalky Chalk. That's like Marky Mark's.
That sounds like a character. That's like a mascot for the ice cream. Chalky
Right.
chocolate.
It's the dessert spin-off from Wahlburgers.
No. I got your fucking Wahlburger right here, dick.
So don't eat ice cream, fatso.
That is exactly what he'd be like if he were from Boston.
Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that does not give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Chris Jensen. I'm a contributing writer at SIVA Weekly, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Crean. I am editor for The Independent. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly, and I am also a member of BAFCA.
On this week's show, we've got things that don't make sense together, but they're all happening, and they're all movies. So here we go. We just recorded our Patreon segment about Highlander and Highlander 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in our takes on that, you can check out our Patreon page. We got thoughts.
Yes, a lot of them.
About a half hour's worth of thoughts. So, yeah, and if we've got great tiers, you can choose to vote in polls, exclusive audio, get a shout out on the show, or choose a movie for us to watch. So patreon.com/spoilerpiece. On this week's episode, let's start off. We got 3 movies at the same time that we've covered on the show, but not for standalone segments. It's always been part of our festival coverage.
Right.
If you do want to, we won't get it too in depth, but if you want to hear the episode we talked about it, I'm going to give you the episode numbers. Tigers Are Not Afraid, which was one of the best movies at last year's Buff. So a year and a half ago, Buff. Buff of 2018, Boston Underground Film Festival. It is a Spanish language magical realist set in Mexico. It is great. It's a dark R-rated fairy tale about kids trying to make it, but then there's like mystical unseen forces that have moral bents to them, and it's a great idea to have this world that doesn't seem like there's any way out of it, but that there's still something you can do that's a positive force. So that's playing. You're going to see a lot of great reviews. I know I've seen a lot of. Everybody's been excited for this. Everybody who saw it at festivals has been saying, yes, finally the world can see this because it won an award at Buff. And then people who have been hearing nothing but good things about it since the festivals are now seeing it and also posting
right
good reviews of it. And it was one of the great hits, one of the great hits of the festival. Feel good, even though it deals with dark stuff, challenging times.
It's a good movie for right now, being the fact that it's about a group of Mexican children, street children. Good movie for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved the Q&A with the director. She shed some light into what it takes to get a movie made, but she never lost the magic of what a movie is. She had insider industrial talk, but then it never deadened the magic of the thing. So highly, highly, highly recommend. You can listen for more on episode 194. That's going to be our Boston Underground Film Festival coverage for 2018. We also have in theaters now, you'll probably be hearing a lot about Loose, which is not the same Loose we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Right.
That was L-U-Z. This is L-U-C-E. L-U-C-E Loose was opening night movie at an independent film festival in Boston this past year. Mm-hmm. It's a hell of a way to start the festival.
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah. It is not compromising, and it is stressful.
Oh, yeah.
You will have stress sweats.
That score is incredible.
The score... the simmer, it feels like it's about to boil over at any moment. In my review, I compared it to like how Krisha is made like a horror movie, even though it's not a horror. Mm-hmm. This is made like a thriller because you never really know where it's going to wind up, and you're caught in a web. You're caught in someone else's web. Somebody who's so much smarter than everybody else, but has been putting up a front. But what kind of front has he been putting up, and to hide what? And is he hiding, or is it survival?
Right.
That's great. It's also partially coming of age, but it doesn't really focus on that. It's more like what somebody had to do to grow up. So he was Luce was adopted by an affluent white couple. He's from Eritrea. He was a child soldier. He's then become a star student, athlete. The movie starts with him giving a speech. He's blows everybody away at debate. But like, what happens when the golden child stuff starts to deteriorate? But not like, is he what he presents that he is? If he isn't, why is he?
Yeah, and what is it like as a parent to have a child that's adopted? What's it like navigating race when you're an adoptive parent of a different race than your child? What's it like when you have a child that you think might be evil?
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of complex questions that the film raises, and it doesn't neatly answer any of them, but it really gets you thinking, and that's what I think is so strong about it.
I don't know if it's going to end up on my ballot, but I think Octavia Spencer might. I think this is the best cast she's been. Like, she's broadening what it is that we associate with her in recent years, and I really like that.
Yeah.
She's always been great on screen, but now she's in different types of roles.
People don't challenge her enough, I think. I think Octavia Spencer is very talented, and I think she gets put in a lot of roles that don't allow her to flex her muscles. They're very kind of rote situations where she kind of colors within the lines because she has to. But I want to see her in more things like this, which allow her to, show her chops.
Yeah, she can coast by on charisma if she wants to, because she's got it. Like, she's got one of those things, you point a camera at her and she's like, you belong on screen in movies. But in this one, she is acting her ass off. In a good way. I know that can imply somebody's overacting, but this role demands the depth that she brings to it. Mm-hmm. I don't think the movie would have worked without her. So, Loose, you can also catch that right now. Another one that seems like, I think only I've seen this one. Evan, did you see it? Tone Deaf?
Yes. I saw it as well. It's one of my favorite movies from this year, actually.
From this past year's Boston Underground Film Festival. And you can find that one in episode 246, which again was from earlier this year. Mm-hmm. That one is, you read the description. Dave, you had a good description a second ago that was kind of sarcastic. It's better than it sounds. even though it doesn't sound that bad.
It has a terrible trailer, too, by the way. I just saw it recently because it's available on demand. Don't watch the trailer because it's not a good indication of the kind of movie you're going to get.
That's disappointing because this movie is funny. Mm-hmm. It's scary.
It's crass, too. It's funny, but it's crass.
Yeah, and not in that dirty grandpa way where it's like, let's just have somebody, sort of poke at what we know are taboos, which was the easiest thing in the world to do. Mm-hmm. But you would just have the collision of two radically different experiences in the world. Robert Patrick decides, I've lived a life. I just buried the woman I love. The one thing I've never done before is killed somebody.
What?
And he tells this to his neighbor. It's like, you've always been a good friend of mine. I just need you to know that I'm going to do this. He talked to the camera about like, you kids.
I mean, what's great about it, it's this horror movie, this survival horror movie about this young woman who goes to be at an Airbnb and the guy tries to kill her. But it's also the situation as a metaphor for the generational war between millennials and baby boomers. Mm-hmm. And Robert Patrick, clearly his character has a screw loose. Like, he is unhinged. But at the root of his anger, I think, is a legitimate anger about people of a younger generation and their attitudes that he doesn't like. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes it fascinating. And he has these angry tirades where he's talking to the camera, and I think that in someone else's hands, it probably wouldn't have worked, but I think he nails it.
Yeah, totally. And the way he looks at her coexist bumper sticker near the beat, it's a small moment, but it's an effective one.
Yeah.
Tone deaf is also, she plays the piano, but she plays it horribly. Nobody's ever told her before. And then the one time in her life, somebody tells her, hey, your horrible piano is like the final standoff. Mm-hmm. He's the one who finally tells her. This is Spoiler Piece Theater, people.
Yeah.
And he like stops trying to kill her to yell at her about how bad at piano she is. But there's this moment where she's like, okay, so fucking what? So I'm bad at piano. She doesn't say that, but that's the mood of it. He's trying to set up this world of like proper, and then meanwhile she's like, what are your priorities right now? You're trying to kill me and you're mad at me that I'm bad at piano, but you're trying to kill me. So it's good. It's funny. And it's scary. It's, I think, what I want from a low budget horror comedy.
Yeah.
I think horror comedies rely on making fun of themselves for using tropes and winking. There's no winking. There's looking directly at the camera and talking to the audience, but there's no winking. It takes the film seriously, but it is very funny.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. You can get that one on demand. I didn't see it open up in theaters anywhere, but you can get it on demand. Mm-hmm. Apparently it's $8 to rent. If you want to spend that, it's worth it. If you want to wait for it to come down, that's your right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are the movies that we've covered before that you can check out now. Next, let's go to Fiddler, Miracle of Miracles.
Yes. It's a documentary. In the Boston area, it's going to be opening at the Kendall Square Cinema and West Newton Cinema. And it's about the history of Fiddler on the Roof. And it's really fascinating. It's moving. It's entertaining. It traces the show's origins in the early 60s when it debuted in 1964. It's got footage from different iterations. It's got interviews with people in the cast. It's got great behind-the-scenes information, stories from cast members. It really talks about how the show originated. Really kind of three key people, the composer Jerry Bach, the lyricist Sheldon Harnick, and Joseph Stein, who basically adapted the story. So the story of Fiddler on the Roof comes from a series of stories by Shalom Aleichem, they're based on a character named Tevye, who is this character who is in the musical. He's a central character in the musical. So there's all these kind of stories about Tevye, this kind of Russian Jewish folk stories from, like, I think Shalom Aleichem was from Ukraine. And so they decide to adapt this into a musical. And it's just seeing the collaborative process there is fascinating. They play some behind the scenes tapes. So the composer and the lyricist would send each other tapes. And so one of them would be like, oh, well, I'm thinking maybe this. And then the other one would go, okay, let me work with that. And you hear the collaborative process, and it's really interesting. And then they also talk about the director of the original Broadway production, Jerry Robbins, and he's a really fascinating guy. He worked on West Side Story, and he's responsible for the amazing choreography in that. And he himself was a Jew, and he struggled with his heritage, and he was also closeted. And there's really interesting issue between him and Zero Mostel, who was the star of Fiddler on the Roof. Zero Mostel looked down on him because Robbins named names during the what I don't know what you call it.
HUAC, House Un-American.
Yeah, and
Activities.
it's revealed in the documentary that it's mainly so that he could not have his homosexuality exposed. But it created a weird dynamic. But anyway, it was interesting. They described how Robbins put his unique spin as the director on the show, and making it having dancing, but not in dancing in a way you typically see in a musical, like trying to make it feel very natural, like the dancing is natural dancing as opposed to musical theater style dancing.
So wait, there are no theater elbows?
Not really.
Oh.
No.
Define theater elbows.
Let's see. This is my go-to musical for theater elbows. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, where everyone's just like la da 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 da, and it's like you can
throwing
see
up
them.
their arms.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Or Once Upon a Mattress has theater elbows.
Mm-hmm.
Any others you can think off the top? Like, for example, Les Miserables, no theater elbows. Miss Saigon, no theater elbows. But like the happy, like the feel-good musicals.
The
elbows.
kind of singing you do when there's not a lot of direction other than sing big and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
There's some genuinely impressive dance numbers in this where you're seeing people do these just incredible movements, like jumping in the air and doing splits in the air. And the bottle dancing song is just incredible when the guys are dancing with the bottles on their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dancing is just, it's incredible. And one thing I was not expecting about this documentary is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is in it, and he plays a decent sized part in the documentary. Talking about the musical, its influence on him. He interviews one of the guys who worked on the musical. I think he was interviewing Joseph Stein, who adapted the story. And there was a whole thing, and I can appreciate this because we did incorporate Fiddler into our wedding. We were walking to Sunrise Sunset at Lin-Manuel Miranda's wedding. He and his father-in-law sang L'Chaim together. And they show clips of that, and it's really entertaining.
You may have seen the video before you knew who he was.
Yeah. It's really entertaining. They put together this great number. So what else? I think there's really interesting commentary on Fiddler in the context of how it is. It's a very Jewish story, but it's also very relatable to people from all different walks of life. They show a Japanese presentation of Fiddler on the Roof, a presentation that they do in Thailand. They talk about an inner city production of it at a time when it was actually very controversial in New York City, and how even some Jewish faculty members were objecting to it, and how the show went on, and it was just this really important thing.
So the show is controversial, but on its own right?
In some ways, but I feel like they talk about how it has a universality to it, and how there's a lot of themes that are universal to people. There's the idea of tradition, and this was one of the most fascinating things in the documentary. So the song Tradition, you associate with Fiddler on the Roof, wasn't even originally in the musical. Once they started debuting the show, they came up with this song to kind of bring everything together. So kind of when they were out there doing like trial runs of the show, they came up with it. So I thought that was interesting because it's such an iconic song that you associate with the musical, and it kind of is a through line, but it wasn't there in the beginning.
Fiddler, growing up Jewish, that's just part of your upbringing. That's just, I don't know how much of my Jewish identity is just associated with that. Now I didn't like watch it nonstop, but it feels like home, you know, it feels like a natural extension of Judaism rather than something that somebody made at a certain point.
Yeah.
It just feels like it was there. And it's just always been there. And it's always, you can just always launch into a song from Fiddler on the Roof where you just cite something and people know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were saying in the documentary that since its debut in 1964, Fiddler on the Roof has been performed every single day somewhere since then. Every single day Fiddler on the Roof has been performed. That's how iconic and popular of a story it is. And I was interested in some of the conversation they had about the feminism of it and the idea of you have the female characters in it saying like, no, I'm done with this tradition of being like chattel basically and being married off to someone I don't want to be with. And I thought that was interesting at the time it was coming out. Definitely touched a nerve with people. And I also appreciated the way that they tied it into present day and everything that's happening with refugees throughout the world. And like, you know, you have a story about refugees. These people are forced to leave their home at the end of the musical. And, you know, there's something to be said for, you know, looking to that story and seeing the parallels between that and what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Do they get into the movie in the movie?
They do, yeah. So there is a portion of the movie where they discuss, a portion of the documentary where they discuss Fiddler the movie. And that's also really interesting unto itself and how they cast Topol and Topol being an Israeli person and his portrayal of Tevye being different. He brings a very Israeli quality to the role and discussing his differences and how he played the character. And he talks about working on the movie. And of course, there's like a goofy story where they interview the director, Norman Jewison, and he talks about how when they originally brought him in, they're like, oh, of course, you should make this, Norman Jewison. And he was like, yeah, I'm actually a goy.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about Norman Jewison. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really entertaining, and there was a joke that gave me a good belly laugh. It was an interview from the time with Topol, where Topol was saying that, you know, Norman Jewison learned so much that he was going to convert to Judaism and change his name to Norman Christensen.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zero Mostel and Topol are two very different performers.
Yeah.
I can see what you mean that Zero Mostel comes from the Yiddishkeit of it all. Mm-hmm. Where I think, like you said, Topol has it. It's still great.
Yeah.
It still feels like a fully fleshed out character, and it doesn't feel like, hey, who's this Israeli guy transplanted into Ukraine? Mm-hmm. He doesn't feel so much like that, but it's probably better. I don't know. I wish there was a version with Zero Mostel, but I'm also sort of glad it's him in the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because like it's maybe a little less jokey than it would have been. Mm-hmm. Maybe I've never actually seen. I never saw it with Zero Mostel, obviously, because it was before I was born. Mm-hmm. But that's the impression I get of it. He's a little bit. He has silly thoughts, but he's not a silly man. Right.
Yeah, he takes it more seriously. And another part of the documentary discusses what a complex, interesting character that Tevye is. There's a lot of facets to him, and how each of the people who've played him over the years have played him differently. And I think one of the more moving parts is a situation where there was a guy who his father played Tevye, and his father died when he was at a very early age. And so he grew up and he got to play Tevye on Broadway. And the idea of when he was wearing his father's boots and he was occupying the character, feeling a way that he was getting closer to his father by embodying this character in a way that he never felt that he could because he lost his father so young. So that was really good. Also, apparently Anatevka is a place. It's an actual place you can go. I had no idea.
I thought Shalom Aleichem made it up.
I guess there's a place you can go that's Anatevka, and the documentary was showing it. Now, I don't know if this is a place that was invented. Like, I don't know if it's like, this is Anatevka in quotation marks, but apparently there's a place in Ukraine that you can go to.
I think it's Jewish Lake Wobegon. Like, it's not. I'm curious. I'll look it up, but
Yeah.
that's what I got.
Yeah, it was really interesting because that was kind of toward the tail end of the documentary.
Yeah, because Shalom Aleichem himself was. I mean, that name is a fake name.
Yeah.
The same way that Mark Twain is. It's an expression, so it's already a little like wry kind of humor. But yeah, he just sort of spun these tales in the way that Mark Twain or Garrison Keillor would.
Yeah. There was actually a part that I think you would find really interesting, Chris. There was when they were talking about Shalom Aleichem in the beginning, they were describing his distaste for the matchmakers as a profession, and apparently one of his stories was made into a Russian film called Jewish Luck, which you should probably look up and see if you can find it.
Yeah, interesting.
There's this whole idea of like women being carted off for marriage, and there's this whole thing where they're like all in wedding dresses on like getting off a train, and then they're like loading them onto a boat. Like they attach like a rope to this girl and like hoist her up into the boat, and then like put her into like like a little thing where they like close the door, and there's like 4 women standing in there.
This sounds like a movie I should know about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely
because
look it
that
up.
sounds like an image that you create when you're like, hey, this thing kind of sucks. Because like also, yeah, shtetl stories like that are not all, hey, everything is great on the shtetl. There's social commentary. Plus, it was at a time where sort of like a secular left-wing identity was coming into the shtetl. But also there's the desire to maintain tradition. Tradition's important, but so is progress, and so are people's rights to decide their own life for themselves. But that doesn't make the older generation in the shtetl bad people or reactionaries. Or
right.
So that's the mood. A lot of Yiddish language writers from around his time had that sort of sensibility, and some even more left and even more secular than him.
So yeah, it's really good. There's lots of great interviews. Austin Pendleton is in it, and he was in the original Fiddler cast, which I had no idea. Of course, they've got some interviews with Harvey Fierstein. How could they not have him in this documentary? I was so glad to see him. I think to a certain point I thought to myself, where is he? Then he came on screen and I was like, oh, all is right with the world. They interviewed Joel Grey as well. He just, I think 2 years ago, put on a production of Fiddler that's entirely in Yiddish.
Great.
That's really cool. And they show some clips from that too. So really interesting documentary. Highly recommend it.
What do they do for To Life L'chaim? L'chaim. Oh, that's not Yiddish. That's Yiddish.
Yeah, and they didn't show that scene, but they throughout the documentary they show different productions, iterations of the kind of iconic songs. The only one I can think of is when they show Lin-Manuel Miranda's wedding, when they show them singing L'chaim.
My wife. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of like funny and like analysis of some of the songs, but like not in a way that's like, okay, we're trying to overanalyze everything.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Good. Miracle of Miracles. Which comes from the song that's Wonder of Wonder, Miracle of Miracles. Yeah. Into it.
Evan,
Yes.
I'm very disappointed that I now want to see this documentary, but also Fiddler on the Roof. And for that I say, damn you, sir. For you know how I feel about musicals.
I know. I'm shocked that I've spoiler PC'd. I mean, it is a very entertaining musical, and it's just, I don't know, it has this, as the documentary demonstrates, it has a cultural hold on people. It's just, I don't know, it's incredibly memorable, and it's just such a unique, interesting story.
How do you say je ne sais quoi in Yiddish or Hebrew? It's got that.
You'd probably say je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Except maybe like with more of an accent.
Yeah.
Maybe like an Israeli accent, like je ne sais quoi.
Not in Yiddish, you would.
No.
All right, cool. Thank you. And Dave, hell yeah, watch Fiddler, goddammit. Like,
Okay. I mean, sure, why not? I mean, I've always liked T'Pol, or Topol, or however it's named. The English say T'Pol, and that's why I've heard his name most, because of Notting Hill. But anyway, T'Pol is also in my favorite James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only. So, yeah. Well,
playing
second.
Devia.
Yeah. Well,
That's an action movie I would watch.
Yeah.
not my favorite Bond movie, but you know, it's up there. It's a top 3.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with anything.
So, last movie we have, Dave, you saw Brittany Runs a Marathon.
I did, and she does. So it's a true title. It's not like Brittany runs a marathon. Just kidding, she dies. It's not like that.
It's not a metaphorical marathon, although maybe partially, but there is a marathon.
It is
in the movie.
partially a metaphorical marathon because it's about Jillian Bell plays this woman named Brittany, who is a Class A fuck up, who she's such a fuck up that she works at a theater, and so showtime is at like 7 p.m., and she can't get to work on time at 7 p.m. because she stays out all night drinking and doing drugs, and she'll wake up at 6 o'clock at night and be like, shit, I have to get to the theater. But she lives in Queens, and if anybody knows what it's like to travel in the subway and from Queens to somewhere, it ain't easy. So anyway, I can't remember exactly why she decides to run a marathon. I can. It's because she has this neighbor played by Michaela Watkins who her name is it's not Martha, but they call her Martha because they just think it's funny. Yeah, it's one of those things where
I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, her name is Catherine, but they call her Martha. So anyway, Martha's a runner. She lives a floor above Brittany, and she's always telling Brittany and her roommate, don't leave your clothes in the hallway, things like that. And it's because they come home so wasted that they'll take off their clothes and leave them in the hallway. So anyway, Martha's always running. Catherine is always running, seeming to better herself. And Brittany just kind of has this epiphany because she goes to the doctor to get some Adderall because. And the doctor's like, I'm not going to prescribe you Adderall. And she says, okay. He's like, a lot of the reason, and she's talking about how she's always run down and this and that. And he says, well, do you get enough sleep? And she's like, oh, totally. I sleep 12 hours a day. And he says, okay, well, it's not that. Maybe it's the lifestyle you're living. And he says, what's your diet like? What? And she's like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you're 5'6", you're 197 pounds, and you smoke a lot and you drink a lot, and you told me you do drugs. So maybe you should concentrate on, getting your weight under control, and that would probably cure a lot of the problems you're having. And she's like, oh, fuck you, or whatever. And but then she goes home and she has one of those nights like and this has happened to all of us who have made major lifestyle changes. She has one of those nights where she's gone out and she's having a good time, and then it just turns so shitty, but in like a sad way, where you like see yourself for what you actually are. And so she goes home and she decides she's going to get up in the morning and run one block. And she puts on all of her stuff. Like, she's got some old running clothes and things like that. She puts them on, and she goes to the store to get something first, and she can't, I don't know why she goes to the store to get something first. And the person behind the counter is just kind of a dick to her. And so she just goes home and she decides she's not going to run, and she's very sad, and she starts sobbing. And Catherine hears her because it's one of those apartment buildings where you can hear everything. So Catherine goes upstairs and she's like, what's going on? And Brittany tries to kick her out, but she comes in, and Catherine's like, look, I used to be a heroin addict, so nothing you say about how shitty your life is going to surprise me, and I might just empathize with you a little bit. And so I just keep wanting to call her Jillian because her name's Jillian Bell. But Brittany says, basically, I'm a fuck up. I'm 28 years old, and all my friends are, getting married or having kids, and they have good jobs, and I just, I can barely keep this job I have, and blah, blah, blah. And Catherine sees that she's like Brittany's discarded her running clothes on the floor, and she's like, well, just, I'm here to help you if you need anything. She's like, fuck you, Catherine, you're a dick. So Catherine leaves. But the cool thing is Michaela Watkins, the character, Catherine, she understands. It's like one of those characters, like, I understand you're in pain. I don't know what kind of pain you're in. I don't know why, but I know that I've been in a similar place. And so I'm not going to be a dick to you just because you're outwardly being a dick. And so they kind of become friends, and then Brittany runs 1 block, and then the next day she runs 2 blocks, and then the next day she runs 3 blocks, and then she decides, Catherine goes to this running group on Saturday mornings in Queens, near where they live, which, by the way, I don't think they shot in Queens because Queens is not this beautiful. But anyway, they go to a run, and it's a 2-mile run, and Brittany's like, fuck, a 2-mile run, god damn it. And then she meets this other guy while she's running, and they start talking, and he's miserable too. They're just sweating profusely, and there's this really funny moment when they're running so slowly that some children who are just playing in the park walk right by them faster than they're running. But they finish their 2 miles, and at the end, they decide they're going to run a marathon because Brittany's like, I'm tired of being a fuck up or whatever. And so the rest of the movie is just about, about Brittany kind of taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, trying to get in shape and stop, I use the word dating, but it's not dating, hooking up with guys who are shitty and trying to be good at her job and things like that. And I've seen the movie get some flack for not fat shaming per se, but going along with the idea that kind of promoting the idea that if you lose weight and this and that and whatever, you'll be happy. And if you do these things, it may work out for you too. And I think that the people writing those kind of missed the point that this is one, it's based on a true story, but 2, it is a singular person's journey, and I don't really, and maybe the filmmakers did make it so other people would feel inspired, but I can't imagine that anybody would watch this comedy with some very dramatic moments and think to themselves, yes, this is the approach I'm going to take. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, Brittany goes, there's one point where she's training so hard and she's pushing herself so much farther than her body can go that she ends up getting a stress fracture, and she can't run the marathon the year she wants to run it. She has to wait another year. Yeah, she has to wait another year. Meanwhile, Catherine and the guy she met in the at the 2-miler, his name's Seth. Catherine and Seth run the marathon, and Brittany goes home to stay with her sister and brother-in-law and kind of get her shit together because she and her roommate have a falling out and she can't live in the apartment. And then there's also this subplot where she gets a job house sitting and dog sitting, but she moves into the apartment where she's house sitting and dog sitting, and the owners find out and kick her out. So it's just, no joke, I laughed, I cried. And as someone who is training for the New York City Marathon again, I can really identify with all of the feelings of self-loathing that go with having a shitty workout, no matter what size you are. I had a workout today that was like, I was like, this is going to be fucking cake. 6 miles? Fuck you. And at the end of 6 miles, I was like, I want to kill myself. Whereas last Saturday, I ran 15 and it was nothing. So, these things happen to everybody. It's very funny. Jillian Bell is very well cast. She's the makeup in the movie is not so good because when she's heavier at the beginning of the makeup, she's clearly wearing like padding, and you can kind of see the like they fill out her face
right, because she had already lost the weight.
She'd already, yeah. I mean, I don't know. She was in that movie Sword of Trust, which came out a couple of months ago, and she's not large in that movie. So I don't know what she looks. I've only seen her in like 3 or 4 movies, and she's looked pretty much the same to me in all of them. So yeah, they definitely padded her out for this.
And Michaela Watkins is in both, funny enough.
Yes.
In Sword of Trust, she plays her girlfriend.
Her girlfriend, that's right. And in this one, she just ends up playing a friend. And it's kind of funny, Brittany really hates to accept help from people because she feels like it's pity. And she does her very, very best to push away Catherine and Seth and even her brother-in-law, who was kind of like a second dad to her after her dad died. So it's much more deep than I thought it would be. I thought it was just going to be about, I'm running a marathon and I used to be a fuck up, but it's about more than that. And when she does run the marathon, it's actually a pretty short sequence in the end, because it's what they say. It's more about the journey than the whatever. she almost doesn't make it because she cramps up at mile 22 and things like that. So, but she's got people in the stands who find her at the right time, which is totally cliche. But at the same time, if you plot where you're going to stick your people, if you say to them, I need you on First Avenue at 79th Street because you know that's where you're going to feel like you want to die, then it kind of makes sense that, you know, wherever she cramps up, like mile 22, you're almost into Central Park at that point. So it's just, it's really well done, even though it seems cliche how she would have people finding her at just the right moment on the course. And I don't really have much more to say about it, except it's really funny and it's really heartfelt, and it feels authentic. I don't know is the right word, but it just feels like a story that somebody lived in.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, you're training for a marathon yourself, so I'd imagine if it's resonating with you and you can identify with it, then it's doing the right thing.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of really funny gags in it. There's this bit at the beginning when she goes to sign up at a gym, and Mikey Day from Saturday Night Live is the guy signing her up, and he's like, oh, yeah, our memberships, we have lots of different memberships. The least expensive one starts at $129 a month. And she says, $129 a month? And he's like, yes, but you get to use all of the facilities in the gym except for half of them. And she's like, so that's not all the facilities. Why would you put it that way? He's like, well, it's marketing, and there's lots of stuff like that. And, she has a boyfriend or she ends up meeting a guy who is also house sitting, dog sitting the same house, and he moves in and she moves in at the same time, and of course they fall in love, but she tries to fuck it up, but then it works out okay. It's just a good time, and like you were just saying, Evan, if it resonates with me, and just for everybody listening who hasn't heard me talk about this before, this is not my first marathon, so I know how the ending works too, so it all just worked for me, made a lot of sense, and I felt as somebody who, if you had known me in my 20s, you would have been like, what's this guy's problem? I identified a lot with Brittany as a person too, so it's it kind of hit on all levels for me. I think that Jillian Bell will probably be in my best actors list for the end of the year, and maybe this will be in my top 10. I'm not sure. I think I need to see it again, but maybe it'll be number 10. It'll be my number 10 or my number 50, depending on how many movies are on my list.
Yeah, you said Jillian Bell, and that's a familiar face, but I can't think of like a star-making turn that she's had. So
yeah, she's been on a lot of TV shows like Workaholics, and I think she had some other show called Idiot Sitter. She's been in a lot of bit parts, mainly aside from 22 Jump Street, where she played the villain in that. Yeah,
like very memorable from that. Not the star, but stand out. And then also...
she's in the new Bill and Ted. She's in Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I saw that. She's in the upcoming Bill and Ted.
Yep.
She is the part that made me laugh. No, the two things that made me laugh in Rough Night were her and the bachelor party. So like she carried the stuff that was like, you guys are kind of spinning your wheels. Like she lifted that above where it should have been. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that she finally gets her like, this is me.
Yeah.
Check me out in my leading role. And it's a full performance. It's not so the 22 where she's not the funny one.
Right.
Okay.
Right. She is funny, don't get me wrong, but
sure.
She also carries the dramatic moments really, really well. She's definitely a multifaceted actor. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to her after this. I mean, one of the things that is kind of so great and also kind of overwhelming about watching movies and TV shows right now is because there are so many platforms, streaming, whatever. Mm-hmm. There's so much stuff out there, and there are so many actors that you might not ever have seen before, because there used to be 3 networks, and then there were 5 networks, and then there were 20 channels, and now there's like a nearly endless number. And it's like, I was talking to you guys off the mic about a show called In the Dark, and I was just thinking, all of the people in this show I have never seen before anywhere, and they're all amazing. Like, where did they find them? You know, and you just think about how many actors are there like that out there who are amazing that you've never heard of, but, you know, they're getting their shot now because they can be on a Netflix show or a Hulu show, or, you know, fucking Voodoo has a show coming out now. Not that I'll ever watch it because fuck Walmart, but you know, it's just really cool. And I'm not putting Jillian Bell; she's a tier above, you know, just like random streaming show person, or 2 tiers. But it's really it's a choice flick, and I'll be interested to see where her career goes after this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was already interested in seeing Brittany runs a marathon, but I'm definitely more interested now hearing you talk about it.
Oh, did I spoiler piece it well enough for you?
You did. Yep.
Ah, good.
I'm into it. And it's an Amazon film, right? So it shouldn't be too long before we get a chance to see it on Amazon, right?
Yes, it is an Amazon film. It's been out for, I think it came out last week in like New York and LA. It's coming out Friday, August 30th, so the day that this show comes out in Boston, and I'm sure lots of other places. And I don't know there's all kinds of rules about how long something needs to be in a theater before it can be streaming, because I was just reading about this today, about all of the agreements that the theater chains have with the streaming services. I don't know what the Amazon rules are, you know, when they make their own movies or what. So who knows how long it'll be, but it'll be on Prime, I'm sure, before the end of the year.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brittany Runs a Marathon is a C. Fiddler, Miracle of Miracles is a C.
Yep, enthusiastic.
Also, all 3 of the movies we named at the top of the episode, Taggers Not Afraid, Tone Deaf, and Loose, are all C's. Mm-hmm. The only ones don't C's are the ones on our Patreon. So we've got some real highs and lows. If you're curious about that, you can check out, as I said at the top of the episode, patreon.com/spoilerpiece, where we talk about Highlander and Highlander 2. Boy, man. I'm sorry to bring everybody back down after talking about actually good movies.
Right.
But yeah, you can check that out. So I think that about wraps it up. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found: Google Play Store, iTunes, Stitcher, all of them, Spotify. Mm-hmm. And if you come across the show there, if you listen, rate it in your preferred app and tell a friend. And you know, it really goes a long way in spreading the spoiler piece-ness. You can find us at spoilerpiece.com. Spoilerpiece.libsyn.com is our hosting site. Twitter is at spoilerpiece. Spoilerpiece Theater on Facebook. You can send us an email, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. You can give us a call,
862-21-PEACE.
and you can leave us a voicemail. And as I said, also on Patreon, where you can participate in all sorts of great polls, exclusive audios, get a shout out, request a movie, and just hang out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so thanks for listening again. My name is Chris Jensen. I'm a contributing writer at Siva Weekly. I'm a member of BAFCA. You find me on Twitter at @tuperite. Find me on Letterboxd, K Jensen. That's KJENSON.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm editor for The Independent. I am co-chair of BAFCA and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly, and you can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
I will see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.